Welcome to the table, everyone. Welcome to the table. We're excited that you're here. Come on in and join in. We thank you for being with us. We are here on our last episode of season 1, our finale. So we thank you for the support. And so if you are already on, if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, go ahead and drop us your name. Tell us where you're from, where you're watching from. I know Xiomara Flores already here. Yeah, the view couples are here. We can post it already. Thank you, Xiomara. She has hosted a watch party almost every season since we started with people from her church. And so they are there today. So today the couples are together at View down in Longwood, Florida. So we're excited that you're here with us. If you're already on, go ahead and hit the share button. Share this on your page. We're excited that you're here. Thank you from Carmen. I see you. Carmen Cortez from Lorain, Ohio. One of the quartets that she's on. Thank you for being on. Again, go ahead and hit the share button. We thank you for being with us over these last couple of weeks and months, in September. And we've come to our season finale, and I'm excited about what we're going to be doing today. Bernice, God bless you. Bernice is on. She's saying, God bless you to everyone. Again, Xiomara joining us from Longwood. We're excited to be here. We'll give it about 2 more minutes. Let everybody start coming in. Go ahead and hit the share button. Share it with your leadership, with your pastors, anyone who's in ministry and married, and share it with them. But for our single people, you stay on because I've got something exciting to announce for our single people in ministry. Amen. The weather, enjoying the snow, Christmas. Right on the corner. Christmas is in what, 10 days. 10 days. It's a week from this week. We're excited. We're excited. We're excited to be here. All right. Thank you for joining us. The music might kick in again, so we'll leave it. So welcome to the table. I'm Pastor Abner Rivera, and I'm truly grateful that you're here joining us today. It's a long journey, but we've made it here to the end of our season, right? This season, we've gathered around the table for honest conversations. We've talked about faith. We've talked about family, calling, healing, leadership, and what it really means to follow Jesus in real life. So each episode has reminded us that growth happens when we slow down, when we listen well, and invite God into the everyday spaces of our lives. So in our final conversation of this season, I'm excited. Today, we're going to be talking about marriage and ministry, and the ongoing challenge of maintaining a healthy balance between the work God has called us to and the relationships He's entrusted to us. There's no better way to close this season than by talking about the foundation that sustains all ministry: love, unity, and our faithfulness in the home first. Ministry is demanding. The needs are real, the pace is fast, and the expectations can be heavy. Yet, Scripture reminds us that if we gain the whole world but lose what matters most, we've missed the heart of God and His intention for marriage and ministry. So today's conversation is an invitation to pause, reflect, and realign. So as we close this season together, pull up a chair for this one last time, whether you are home, whether you're traveling, whether you're in your car, or for those who are going to be listening later, we welcome you to our season finale. So let's talk honesty tonight. Let's listen humbly, and let's allow God to speak into our marriages, into our ministries, and into the seasons that lie ahead. I am so excited that tonight I have guests that are joining me from the wonderful city of Bayonne, New Jersey. We have Pastor Giselle and Victor Llerena that are going to be joining us, and they're going to be sharing. We're going to be talking with them. We're going to be asking them those tough questions, but also I know that God is going to use them to just shed some light on this wonderful, wonderful journey of ministry and marriage. So if you're ready, go ahead and drop three fires if you're on Facebook. Three little fueguitos that let me know that you're ready. We're excited to be on here. So if you're ready, we're going to bring them on. So we had posted this. This was our flyer, right, for the season finale, marriage and ministry, finding balance together. And we have with us Pastors Victor and Giselle Llerena. I'm excited that they're here with us today. So let's go ahead and bring them on. My family, how are you doing?
Hello. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you for being on, man. This is a big deal. Season finale. You gotta close it up.
We'll put the pressure on.
No pressure at all. Thank you. So let's see. Okay, so this is Xiomara Flores. This is the watch party. So we've got Kathy and Michael, Tim and Natalie, Friday and Crystal, Michael and Leah, Jackie and Mike, and Edgar and Hannah. They are all together down. Oh, and we got Wilson and Xiomara, Josh and Stephanie. Man, Xiomara, I owe you dinner. I'm going to have to send you a gift card. Thank you for inviting all of these people to be on. Bernice is ready. She put up her 3 fueguitos. Thank you, Bernice, for being on. Amen. So, So first of all, let me just start off by letting you know that Gigi and I go back way, way, way back from her DYD days. And let me tell you, somebody who brought VOC to the spotlight, right, at that time was Gigi. I think during your leadership, we did almost every Spring Fest and every Winter Fest. Yeah. Summerfest is what we didn't do, but you just allowed us to come and minister. You set up that platform for us. So I'm excited that you're here with us, right? In a different capacity. Life has moved on. We've all moved on. You are now married to that big dude that's back there, Victor. And we're excited that you can be with us today. So just welcome everybody that's listening.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Gigi, and this is my husband, Victor, and we're so excited to be here. As Pastor Abner said, we've been longtime friends. We've done ministry together, and just so excited to greet you all. Thank you for being here.
Amen, amen. So before we dive into the whole marriage and ministry, you tell us both where are you at currently, and what are you guys doing right now?
Okay. Well, right now I am the provost of Pillar College. Pillar College is the only fully accredited higher education college in the state of New Jersey.
Nice.
And also in the region of New York. Right now, we're the only one standing. So pray for Pillar College. And I'm the provost. What does that mean? It's the president, and then it's me. So I am second in command, and we're running the school. We're doing really well. And my husband?
Yes. So I'm a clinician by trade. I have a practice in the city of Bayonne. I counsel families and individuals. A lot of our local churches make referrals to my practice. So I have the privilege to minister in that capacity by providing professional counseling. And it's something that I've been doing, I believe, I lost count, but probably more than 20 years on and off in the field of social work. So I've been in the business of helping people for a very long time. And thank you for the invite.
That's awesome. And we want to be able to, at the end, if you want to give any information about anyone, because we do it all here. So if at the end you want to find out about Pillar College and you want to further your education, Gigi's your person. She's here. She's live. And if you need some counseling, if you need, you want to sort some things out, there's some things in here that you just really want to sit down with a professional. Hey, Pastor Victor is here as well. So we offer a little bit of everything. So Abisai Rai says, did you see it there? He says, Pastor Victor Jerena is my guy, heart of gold.
Yes, he's the man.
Good to see you. So listen, I'm going to ask again. I know that a lot are watching on Facebook, but if you comment on Facebook, I have to copy and paste it into StreamYard so they can see the comments. But if you go over to YouTube at Pastor Abner Rivera and subscribe right now, then you can make your comments live through the YouTube, and they go up automatically just like that, just like that, just like that, just like that. And it just makes it easier for me to kind of put up your post, especially if you have comments or anything that you want to comment on as we go through. So today we're going to be talking about marriage and ministry. I know that in the past, I had a conversation with a couple where, and this is past, let me go back. This has to be at least 20, 25 years ago, where this type of conversations were not happening, or they were very hard to happen, or they happened in quiet, right? In the silence, or like in some room, right? But it's hard when two people have a calling, right? And maybe each of you are not called to pastor. So maybe Victor's called to pastor, and Gigi, you had a music ministry, right? And you were this person that had a music ministry, and you had a CD out, and it creates problems because not every invitation that Victor got, right, is for Gigi to sing. Yeah. And not invitation that Gigi gets invited to sing is for Victor to preach. Do you understand? Yeah. So there, there's balances that have to happen when you have distinct callings in your life. And if you're just joining in, Pastor Gigi, as we call her, Pastor Gigi, right? She's provost at Pillar College here in New Jersey, and her husband has his own private practice, but they are pastors. So those are three big heavy hitters that they're trying to manage. And so we're going to join in with them into this conversation. So I'm going to pull up my question. So question number one, as we get started. So ministry often feels like a calling that never turns off. So how have you learned to protect your marriage while still honoring the demands that come with ministry?
That's a great question. So I think the first thing we need to remember is that ministry is a calling, but marriage is a covenant, right? And that is so different, because callings are usually specific, callings are usually seasonal, but covenants are lifelong. They're binding, right? And God established marriage way before he gave us an assignment, right? And so it was really intended for us, so it could be our primary role, our primary priority. And so when ministry begins to outrun the marriage or our covenant, then that's when our foundations really begin to be weakened. And so marriage is not a support of a ministry. It's actually the image of the gospel. When we have a healthy marriage is when we're showing and telling the gospel. And so ministry has so many invisible weights that people carry, right? It's, a lot of private pressures. It's emotional depleting. Our schedules are pretty chaotic, evening, weekends, there's these unspoken expectations from people in our congregation. And so there's just so much that goes on that, scripture really reminds us that we need to have rest, and we need to find rest with God, but also rest with one another. So one of the things that we can do to try to protect our marriage before protecting our ministry, right? Because that's first, is we got to learn how to schedule our marriage. And this is really interesting. My husband and I, we schedule a lot of things. Everything gets scheduled. I wasn't like that, when I have to admit, when I first got married, right? I was the crazy one. That was the arrow, without a target. And my husband is a little bit more organized, more scheduled. And throughout our years, we're going to be 17 years married in July. And
Wow.
throughout our years being married, we've learned to really schedule our marriage, schedule our time of rest, schedule our intimacy like we would schedule a meeting, right? Because if it's not on the schedule, then it doesn't happen. And how many of you know that that's true, right?
Right.
And so if it's not in our agenda, it's not going to happen. And so we schedule everything. And we also do a lot of conversations. Communication, I think, is one of our strong points. We talk a lot. We check in with one another, and we try to guard each other's space, our sacred spaces, our quiet spaces. He needs his space, I need my space, and we respect that. And then we need our space, right? And so ministry requires so much. We need to really know who's going to carry what role, right? That's important. Communication. What is optional? What's required for us to attend and not to attend? And being able to say no without feeling guilt.
That's a big one.
Being able to say no without feeling guilt, right? Because, sometimes that really is not going to roll with me. That's really not my scene. That's not really what I want to do. Or my schedule is so busy that I really don't have that priority. And I have to be able to be honest with him and say, you know what, I can't go to that. So now we talk about, do we both don't go? Do you go? Do I go? And so that way we can protect each other's space. And we need to understand how each of us work, right? So he needs to understand when I'm looking really exhausted, when I'm looking like I'm going to burn out. My spouse needs to understand that and give me permission to step back, to say no without guilt and shame.
All right. So Gigi, I'm going to ask you to step back.
Yeah.
Victor is in the back. Victor.
Yeah. So
wait, by the way, that was beautiful. It was beautiful because I love that you guys have that. You built that mutual respect, that space to have that conversation. Honey, I'm just not feeling it. I don't know. So if you want to go, you can go, but I'm staying.
Yeah. The clinician in me has to come out, and there's one thing she said about scheduling. And this is something I get a lot of pushback on when I also give that advice. Hey, schedule especially on that intimacy time, right? Schedule your intimacy. And people, the pushback is, that's not organic. That's not romantic. How dare you even suggest that? And my question always is it even happening in your marriage? And a lot of times the answer is no. So, the key here is being intentional, right? Making time for what's important. And if that means scheduling, it might not mean scheduling in your case, but whatever works for your marriage, for your relationship, so that it becomes intentional. In other words, we need to make time for what matters the most. And what matters the most, it should be us. We come first, right? God, us, and then ministry, right? And if we live life in that order, what matters most, if we stay healthy, then we can remain healthy for others. So I just wanted to, that's the only thing. I mean, my wife put that so beautifully, right? Can't top that, but that's the only thing I want to chime in on the intentional part, right?
Yeah. That's one of the words that I used. I learned to, you have to be intentional. You have to have that mindset that this is what we're going to do. Right. And if it's on, and it's not that you have, I know that people say, oh my God, but you scheduled even a date. Well, when you have a heavy ministry like you two have, right, where you're at Pillar College all day, right, and probably having to do, visitations out, or even maybe some weekend stuff. And then you have your husband who has his professional practice, and emergencies can come out of nowhere, right, where he has to step in to do critical care or whatever with someone. Having that on the 10th, we're going to the movies, right? And on the 17th, we're having to dinner. Some people see that as like, well, that's so rigid, that stuff. But please understand, right? Please understand. And then we're going to get through that questions. But please understand, when you have the ministry that they do, They have the two distinct callings, plus then they have the one that unites them as pastors. It works for them. And I love what you said, right? Do what works for you. So we're just journeying with them to see what we can glean from them. But I love that. So I love question number 2. Question number 2 says, what are some of the early signs or some of the warning signs that ministry responsibilities are beginning to take priority over the health of a marriage? So when is it that it just becomes dangerous where the marriage is taking the back seat? What are the signs?
Yeah, so I'm going to share our experiences. I'm going to take it back 17 years, right? Maybe year 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, honey, maybe 5, right? As my wife said, right? She was the loose arrow, right? Very spontaneous, very, we do what we do now, and that's what we're going to do. And some of my alarming words at that time were things like, you never hear, right? Exaggerating, of course, the extreme. You never hear. That's an extreme. But some of the things I would say would be like, you make more time for the people at church than you make time for us. I never see you around, right? And I think that she learned to listen to those words, right? And she didn't brush them off. I think that although they were exaggerated, I must admit, right? And all I was doing was pulling that alarm.
It took
right?
17 years
17
for him
years,
to
right?
admit
Yeah.
that.
And disclosure, right? If anything that I speak, I'm speaking on my behalf. Sounds good. It's 17 years of experience, right? So this didn't happen overnight. And just, sounding the alarm, right? I'm listening to your spouse. Maybe there's some truth to that, right? When you become too tired physically or emotionally to engage in the things that at one time you enjoyed as a couple, right? When you don't want to do those things no more, right? That might be an alarm that you are becoming burdened with ministry, right? There was a season in my wife's life, right, not too long ago when she became burned out. And the Gigi that probably everybody viewing today knows for a time there was there no longer, right? Her candle was kind of like shutting down, right? And just being able to identify that and letting her know that, hey, you might need to take a break, right? You need to recharge your batteries. You might need to step down from ministry for a while to receive, right, and recharge. So I think that what I'm trying to say is being aware of those things, not dismissing them, not trying to become superheroes, right, super ministers, right. It doesn't matter how I feel because I need to be there for my congregation. I need
Right.
to be there for the people that I serve. I also need to take care of myself, right. And I think that it's so important to listen to your spouse. Because if you're hearing something over and over again, there might be maybe just a little truth, right? Even if it's exaggerated, like I did it at one time.
Yeah, I love what you said about taking time off, and I think that in this time where everybody is so title driven, and so I got to be on, like, 1,000%. They don't take the time to rest. They don't take the time, and then they burn out.
Yeah,
They
so
burn
if
out.
I can be a little real with that, Pastor Alvin,
Yes.
because since he already mentioned it, we were born and raised in a culture that you always had to be on, right? And
Mhm.
where we were born and raised in that Hispanic Pentecostal culture, I mean, you at a moment's time you have to preach, at a moment's time you have to sing, at a moment's time you have to play. That's why a lot of people that are come from the Pentecostal church, they're really jacks of all trades because
Yeah.
they built us to be jacks of all trades because we have to be ready for everything, right? And that culture, though I appreciate it and I love my history and my heritage, I think that it also brought a little harm to me because I was always on all the time and I didn't understand what it meant to rest or what it meant to really know Jesus for myself. I knew Jesus for other people because I was a minister and I was a pastor and I was ordained and so I knew what it was to preach and I could do that really well, and I knew what it was to pray and I could do that really well for everybody else, but I didn't know how to really stop and take time for me. And I say this, jokingly, but actually kind of serious. I was really saved like 5 years ago because at 5 years ago is when I really learned the importance of having Jesus for myself before giving it to others. And my culture had raised me to always serve, 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 but never really take care of my light, my candle, my spiritual life. And so that's very important from our culture for us to understand.
Yeah. And I think, people are just uh, afraid to sit down because they may seem like, well, I'm failing, or
Yeah.
they may seem like, well, people aren't going to respect me because I have to take a break.
Yeah.
But we're, I love what you said before about, before ministry ever became a thing, there was always covenant.
Yeah.
Right. God had always established a covenant between man and woman. Right. And that covenant was based on a home.
Yeah.
Not a calling, not ministry, not platforms, not all the 1,000 things that we learned how to do as we were growing up. But it was about that covenant that God had established to begin with the home. So how do you define success in ministry without allowing it to come at the expense of your marriage or your spouse?
Yeah. So
I'm sure that your husband's practice is successful. So how does that balance out with what you're doing at Pillar, with what you're doing at the church?
Yeah. So I think what we need to do is really redefine the word success culturally and then biblically, right? Culturally, success is when you're growing a business, when you are high productivity, when you're always on. But I think when we look at success is when we need to define it in a biblical way. And if the ministry success, right, we're measuring it through numbers, through platforms, through opportunities, if we're measuring that and that begins to erode my marriage, then that's not really successful, because in God's economy, right, in God's world and in God's word, he consistently talks about prioritizing what is good, what is true, what is noble, things that are faithful. And when I look at success, is really not the way the culture sees success, right? It's really what the Bible says success is. And for me, success is when I can finish a season of ministry and I'm still madly in love with my husband. That's success. When I can, finish a task or something and I'm still emotionally present with my husband, and when we are still spiritually aligned. So culture may say you need to have a 1,000-member church, you need to preach the most incredible sermon, you must be preaching. But success for me is really being able to come home after a long day and be with my husband and be in love with him the way I am.
Are you hearing this, people? That is success. That is success.
Yeah, and just if you allow me to chime in, on that success.
Absolutely.
It's also being able to express our needs and our wants, right? And making room for that, right? As my wife said, at the end of the day, the person that I want to make the most happiest is her, and she wants to make me the most happiest. And that sometimes requires us to express what that means, right? How is it that I want you to make me happy? Whether it's watching a movie with me once a week, right? Make time for that, right? And like she said, and if she knows that's important for me, or vice versa, right? If it's important for me to attend a social gathering, right? To go to a party with her, making time for that, right? Because at the end of the day, making each other feel happy is what's most important. And that, in essence, is what true success is. Our marriage needs to be successful, and then we could be successful in everything else that God has entrusted us in.
Because if our marriage is not successful, then really, we're dishonoring God. And so we may have powerful ministries, but if there's issues in our marriage, then that's really a dishonor to God. Then really, how far is our gospel message really going? Is it only a platform message, or is it a message that we're living out? And if we're going to live out a message of the gospel, it has to be first through our marriage before it is through a pulpit.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of leadership conferences, and marriage always comes up, and I always tell them, ministry is here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Platforms are here today and gone tomorrow. Titles are here today and gone tomorrow. But if you have nothing to go home to, right? If you destroyed all of that if you destroyed your home for the sake of a title and platforms, then when that's all taken away from you, where do you go? Where do you hide? Where do you, lay your head at night, right? You have to have the home. So your home has to be important enough. I think what you were saying, important enough to you that you said, if I lost it all, I could still come home to Victor.
And that's success.
Yeah, and that's success. If I lose it all, I still have Giselle. She's my wife. She's my covenant partner. She's you know what I'm saying? And I love that you guys live that out. So so in what practical ways, we're going to continue with our question. In what practical ways can couples create boundaries between church life, home life, and home life, especially when the church expects constant availability? So and that's a big one, because the church, again, Gigi, right? Like you said, we come for it. You have to be on. If the pastor call, if I need the pastor at 3:00 in the morning, he better pick up the phone. No, those times have changed, my brothers and my sisters. Unless it's an emergency, no calling at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm just saying. But so yes, how do we develop those boundaries?
Yeah, it's
when the church expect you got to be on. You're my pastor. You're my pastor.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all know what those boundaries are, right? Like you just mentioned, the 3:00 in the morning call, right? That's the no. And so I think the challenge is not so much identifying the boundary, it's maintaining the boundary, right? And so the expectation that we have with our church, in other words, what are the true emergencies, right? Listen, ministry is about sacrifice. There will be times where we will be called at 3:00 in the morning for something serious, right? But sometimes that 3:00 in the morning call could wait till 10:00 the next day, right? And so being able to not only identify but maintain it, right? Being clear on the expectations with each other, right? In ministry, right? If we're ministry driven, sometimes we're gonna go out of our way, like she said, right? And in our case, it's interesting because she is, I call her the daughter of the district, right? All you guys know her, right? I don't come from that background, right? Her ministry background is extensive. And she comes from that, right? And I think that what balances out is the fact that I come from a different background. I came to serve the Lord at a later age, right? And so there's more balance in the way that we do ministry. And so one of the things that we've done in our marriage is, again, communication is key. We've spoken about these expectations that we have of each other in ministry, and also what the church has as an expectation from us, right? And maintaining them has been key in keeping those boundaries, because that's always the challenge, right? Not knowing what they are, but keeping them.
And making sure that they're clearly defined, right?
Correct.
Within the church community.
Correct.
Like you said, there are things that, yes, there are emergency, but there's things that can just wait the next day.
Absolutely.
And when those things are defined, then the boundaries become clear. Gigi, did you want to add anything? Or
no, I think that's I think clarity is very important. I mean, when we started Journey Church in Bayonne, New Jersey, one of the first things that we laid out was the expectation. And I think that by the grace of God, our church pretty much understands that culture. But again, it's maintaining it, because as people who love God's people who are pastors, people who are in ministry, we tend to ourselves break those boundaries. And then once we break those boundaries once, we got to break them twice and 3 times, and then it becomes a habit. And if you did it for one hermano, you better be ready to do it for the other, the other sister, the other brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why you have to maintain those boundaries. And it's not really people crossing the boundaries, it's you maintaining those boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. Pastor Carlos Medina.
Hey, Pastor, how are you?
Pastor Victor and Pastor G are heroes. Thank you, Pastor Medina, for joining us and right that. So what role does I'm sorry, I skipped the question. You mentioned this a little bit earlier, Giselle. You talked about that you and your husband have a very good good communication. So how important is intentional communication in a ministry marriage, and what rhythms or practices have helped you stay right emotionally and spiritually connected? So what does communication look like for you guys?
Yeah, so that's essential because we're two very busy people. And so communicating about little things like what are we doing for dinner? He does most of the cooking, thank God. He
Oh,
does most
Victor.
yeah. And so, but even little things like that, always trying to share with one another. It's essential. Marriages, they can't survive on assuming things. I'm assuming that my husband is going to do that. I'm assuming that my husband is going to do that. And assumptions are no good. And I think that when we assume or have expectations of what he should be doing or what he could do, I think that's
it creates a lot of unexpected expectations.
Yes,
unmet expectations.
And that's why you have to communicate, because he can't read my mind and I can't read his mind. And so even though we 17 years, and I think we're morphing into each other, because that's what happens when you've lived that long with each other, I still can't read his mind. I don't have that power yet, right? And he doesn't have that superpower yet. And so that's why I think communication is absolutely essential to the littlest things. Don't assume. Because assuming is bad. Because if you assume, then you're gonna have an expectation. That expectation is not going to be met. So communicating from the simplest things is very important, and those are regular check-ins. How are you doing? Hey, what are we doing? This weekend. What do you have planned? Oh, I forgot to tell you. And it's just a matter of going back and forth. So I think that we need to really learn how to talk to one another.
Yeah. You would think that as a clinician, that's something that comes natural to me, but I'm your stereotypical male that, the moment that I don't like what I hear or I'm not in agreement, I'll shut down. And that happened a lot in the beginning of our marriage. And I've learned communication from my wife, where she has taught me that I need to express that. So if I'm talking to any guy out there, one thing that really impacted me was one time she told me the following. She said, every time that you don't talk to me, because my not talking to her could go on for hours and shamefully maybe a day or so, right? And she would tell me, every time you don't talk to me, you hurt me. And I would rather, and this is just figuratively what she said, right? She told me, I would rather you hit me than not talk to me. When she said that, man, I was taken back. I didn't realize how hurtful my not talking to her was. And when she said that really brought me to a place where I needed to make that effort to talk it through, right? I cannot, there's no way that I could hurt my wife that way, right? And I know that, a lot of us guys tend to shut down. That's the way we get back, right? That's the way, oh yeah, I don't like what you said, so I'm gonna get back to you. I'm gonna shut down, and and that is something that we need to undo, right? We need to unlearn and learn how to communicate.
Wow.
And here's one more thing, because if you don't communicate, communication is what keeps connection. And if we're not communicating, then we're not connected.
Yeah.
And if we're not connected, then we're not intimate. And if we're not intimate, then we're not in the right place. And then again, as a ministry, as pastors, what are we doing, right? And so I think connection, if you need to be connected to your spouse, the first thing you can do is communicate and talk.
Communicate. Now, I want to go back to something that you said earlier in the beginning of your marriage. You said that Giselle was like this arrow. She was just a go-getter, right? Sin rumbo, right? There's this arrow just shooting into blank, right? And then I'm assuming that Victor was a little bit more reserved, a little bit more. So how long did it take you guys to find that rhythm of understanding each other?
Again, 17 years in the making, right?
It was like, Pastor, we're still trying to find.
The old Ketchup commercial. Great things happen to those who wait, and truly that has manifested in our marriage, right? I think that in order to answer your question, It happened in my case. I'm speaking for myself in recognizing my wife's calling and who she is. Right. I think that in the beginning, right, that was a challenge for me. And I used to say something that was funny as I was preparing to talk tonight with you guys. There was something that I would say at the beginning of our marriage, and this was the phrase. You probably remember. I would tell her all the time, I don't want to be the pastor's husband. I don't want to be, the pastor's. Actually, what I used to say is, I don't want to be the pastor's wife. And she'd be like, what do you mean by that? And I don't even think I knew what that meant. But what I basically was trying to tell her was, I don't want to shadow you. I don't want to be behind you, because my wife, right? She is the PhD, right? My wife is the speaker. My wife is the musician. She's the provost. My wife is the well-known one, right? That's her. That's my beautiful, precious wife.
Come on, let's not forget, she is an author now.
She is the author, and not for nothing, my wife is jack of all trades and master of them all, right? And so learning to appreciate that, right? She learning that she is the visionary, right? She is the planner, and embracing that. And when I learned to embrace that, to appreciate that, to take that in, and making her success my success, that allowed me to flourish in who I am as a person, right? And I think that's something, and I hope I'm not speaking for you, that also allowed her to remain in her lane, if you will, right? When she understood what I meant by that, I don't want to be the pastor's wife, right? She allowed me to shine in my platform, and in that way, in return, I allow her to shine in her platform. And I think that's the way that, we've learned to balance that out.
Yeah, and you said something very important right now. You said that her success is my success.
Absolutely.
And that kind of just eliminates competition.
Absolutely.
Right. The spirit of competition that sometimes is in marriages, right? It's in ministry. And couples who are listening, I'm not a couples expert, but I've read enough books, right? You have to learn to celebrate. You have to learn to celebrate your spouse, right? What they're doing, and honor them and respect them for what they're doing, right? And that there's still no competition. I think one of the questions that's coming up does a little bit about that. So, and we'll talk about it then. But I just love that you respected her, and you said, you know what? I know that you're this famous person that everybody knows, but the light bulb went on, and you know what? I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And what you're bringing to this marriage and what you're bringing to the ministry, everything that you went through has enhanced what we're doing. Absolutely. And so I celebrate you. So I love that. So, what role does shared vision play in maintaining unity when one or both spouses are actively involved in ministry? So, you've got Pillar College over here, you've got the private practice, you've got the church. So how do you guys share that vision?
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit of what I was just saying, right? I think over the years of our marriage, we've learned to appreciate our individual calling. And by doing so, we've learned to foster each other's growth. How? By supporting one another, right? When she came to me 2 years ago and told me, honey, I want to go from a PhD, right? Hey, listen, I'm a little like this, right? And of course, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, do we want to be in debt? But right afterwards, it was, honey, you go for it, right? And I knew that for a season, she would be not present as fully as she usually is. And I supported that, right? That's why I became the cook, right? That for that season, she was going to have her hot meal after work, because for 3 hours, 7 days out of the week or 6 days out of the week, she was on this very couch doing her homework. And I understood that, and I supported that. And I was there for her, right? Because again, when she graduated, when they called Yelena, that was a success for us, right? Yeah, that's right. And so I think it was by not only supporting one another, by believing one another, believing in each other's calling, right? And being each other's biggest cheerleaders, right? And I think that has helped us in that area.
Yeah, and shared vision, when everything that we've done for God's glory, has been an opportunity that God has opened up a door for us to do. And when it aligns to what our calling is as pastors, then it's easy to share the vision. Where it becomes hard when something comes up and it doesn't fall into what our vision is. We've already spoken how we want our church, who we want our church to look like, we have a life plan already of what it looks like. And when something comes in, an opportunity comes in, and it doesn't fall into that line, that's when we need to be able to say no without guilt, no without shame, and use that power of no.
Good.
Because, as a provost and whatever author, everything else that the Lord has give by grace has given me, there's a lot of opportunities that I've just had to say no to because it doesn't align with our shared vision as a marriage and as ministry. So the power of no is so important. And sometimes it's hard because sometimes it's something I really, really want to do, right? I really want to be able to do this, but it's not in that vision. And so I need to have the discipline and I need to have the respect of our conversation, of our vision, and be able to say, I cannot do that.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you that book number 2 is going to be The Power of No, parentheses, when it doesn't align.
When it does. All right, I'm going to take that.
Go run with it.
All right, it'll be
with the power of no, parentheses, when it doesn't align.
When it doesn't align.
Yeah, and I think that, for people who are ministry, again, if you're listening, there's just kind of like a release when you say no, because that burden of wanting to be on and wanting to say yes and to be at every activity, at every wedding, at every Sweet 16, at every function, when you can say, we're not going. That Saturday, I need that Saturday to spend with my wife, which, by the way, I love that you guys go on these camping walks and trips and stuff and just out in nature. There's something about being in nature, right? That kind of just like clears the mind. And so I love that you guys post those times when you're together.
Yeah.
So what happens when the disbalance does come? So how do you navigate those seasons where it's, it was like this and now it's kind of like going to one side or going to the other side? How do you navigate those times?
So we know that imbalance is very unavoidable, right? It's going to happen. So there's going to be seasons when it's extremely busy and there's going to be other seasons when it's not. I think the key here is how we navigate, or what do we choose to do in those seasons of imbalance. And so I think that when there is a season that is not balanced, I think the first thing we need to do is call it out. Mm-hmm. Right? I need to tell him, baby, there's something going on here. This is not, right. We're out of balance. We need to call it out. Mm-hmm. So I think acknowledging this is a busy season, I think that's very important. So calling it out. And then I think it's setting an end date for it. Okay, we know that this is a busy season. We know that we're in balance, but up to when? 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we'll allow this to continue, but it has to have an end date. And then that's when we communicate, right? That's when we share with one another and we say, hey, listen, I feel like you've been busy. I get it. I know this is a busy season for you, but let's talk about how long this is going to happen for. And that, and also giving each other permission to be busy because the season calls for it in our different callings, but also give each other permission to say, hey, listen, this is too much and we need to put an end to this at some point. So communicate.
I think it all comes, it kind of just circles back to communication.
Actually, I'm in the middle of a season and it's not church related, but listen, we all have lives and life happens in life's terms. I'm a caretaker for my mom, right? She's sick. And I've had the blessing of having her in our home for a season. Matter of fact, she's with us for a couple of days now. And recently my wife called that out in me, right? She said, hey, listen, you're burning out, right? And in my personal view, I was okay. I was handling everything at my practice, church, my mom, my responsibilities. I was like, no, I'm okay. And she kept on insisting, right? The alarm, going back to the alarm, right? She voiced it out. And so I took a pause and I listened to her. And I realized that in fact I was burning out. And so her chiming in, right? Her being my soundboard, my mirror, really helped me realize that I needed to make some adjustments in this high demanding season of my life so that I wouldn't get to the point of totally burning out, right? And again, that took my wife to call it out, tell me how she was looking at me, and then require me to make that adjustment in my life.
Way to go, Gigi.
I'm telling you,
Well,
man.
you have to
She-
give each other that permission, because if you don't, then again, what is that going to cause?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
going to cause issues.
Right.
That's going to cause a burnout. That and I think it's important that believe it or not, there's so many couples that are afraid to talk to each other. They're afraid to talk to each other because I don't want to hurt his feelings, or I don't want to hurt her feelings, or I don't want him to be offended at me. Or here's a big one: wives don't speak because they don't want their husbands to be angry. And so that's not a safe space. And the thing that you need to do is be able to create a safe space that even if I have to say something that I know is going to bother him, he needs to give me that permission to do that so I can express myself, and he needs to have that permission to express himself. But there's so many people, and as a pastor, I know I speak to so many different people and couples that they don't even want to share with each other, how they're feeling. And it's very sad because they haven't really captured the art of communicating with one another. And I think that that's so important.
Yeah. And it's never about what's being said, it's how we say it.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Right? It's always about how we say it, because you could tell me truth that's going to hurt, but I'll receive that depending on the way you say it to me. And if you say it to me as a person who cares, as my wife that loves me and cares for me, I might resist a little bit, but because I know that you care about me, and the way you're saying it is loving, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to listen to you.
And I think that type of communication, it never ends. It's ongoing.
Always.
Like 20 years from now, you're still going to need that space to be able to say 40 years from now, I still need the space to be able to express myself. And you have to be cool with it. I'm going to say it lovingly. I'm going to say it, with wisdom and kindness, but I need to have that space to do that. So I think that's very important. I hope you guys out there in Facebook land and YouTube land are taking notes. If you're in Facebook, I know Pastor Medina said that was a great question about the shared vision, because what you guys carry, right? The leading at the Christian college, being a pastor of a growing church, and also running that private practice. Like that was a great question, and that you answered it beautifully. That shared vision that you have together. And Joel Reyes wrote that it's awesome that you can be each other's cheerleader, right? I cheer you on, and you cheer her on, because sometimes, Gigi's going to be at 40%. She's not going to be at 100%.
No, not 40%, 80% for her. The lowest she goes is 80%. Never gets 40.
That's good. That's good. He jumped in. He said, "Oh no, she ain't never gonna be that low."
80%, man. Doesn't get down to
80%. So Victor comes in, and he gives the other 20% and balances it out, right? So that's good. Have you guys learned? So you've learned, right, within your marriage. How do I say this? Okay, so Victor's home. He's had his day. Gigi's still at Pillar. You're coming home. You're caught in traffic. You're wondering if he cooked or not. When you walk in through that door, 17 years later, right? Here you are, 17 years of marriage. Has he learned how to read you?
Oh, yeah.
Like right now is not a time. Just give me a minute. I need to go to the room, or I might need to shower. I might need just to put my head on the pillow. But right now, I just can't talk because I had just a long day. Have you guys been able to read each other like that?
Yeah, I think you learn to read each other by the body language, right? The way I walk in, he could immediately know how I feel, right? But again, assumptions are no good. It doesn't matter that you've been living for 40 years with each other, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to know when he walks through that door how he's feeling. And I just can assume that he's doing fine. And so when he walks in, I'm like, honey, here's the to-do list. This is what I need you to do. I need you to do this, we can't assume these things, right? Even if you've had so many years of a relationship, I can't assume. So I'm gonna ask questions
Yeah.
instead.
Mind reading is so dangerous in marriage, right? We're not mind readers.
Nah. And so I'm
So
gonna ask.
Gigi comes in, and so the question is, Gigi, are you okay?
Yeah.
How was your day?
How was
Do
your
you,
day?
do you need some time?
If you need some time, what can I get for you? What you want to drink? What you want to cook? What do you need for later on? Right? That sort of stuff. And then she'll tell me.
I love that you know, it's not just service immediately as she enters. It's just, you know, she needs to debrief. You need to decompress
Yeah.
from the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, women talk more than men, right? So I get, you know, sometimes they're like, can you tell me how your day was? He's like, yeah, my day was great. After I had just spent the whole hour telling him everything that happened in the office, he's like, yeah, I had a good day. Thanks for asking. I'm like, oh.
I talk for a living. I don't want to talk no more.
So I'm like,
Yo,
share with me. That's important.
We can wrap it up in one sentence. We could sum it up just in that one sentence.
Yeah, you guys are really skillful like that. But I think that, again, we can't assume.
No assumptions, yeah.
Right? Even though I may walk in, he'll be like, oh man, you're tired today. And actually, I'm not tired.
Right.
I feel pretty good.
That has happened.
Right?
Yeah.
So he said, oh my God, you look so tired. I'm like,
and she's like, no, I'm great.
Oh,
I'm good. And so, you know, then we could, you know, I could ask her, let's go do something. Let's go, you know, for a hike, whatever the case is, right?
Yeah. So mind reading is dangerous.
Mind reading is very dangerous, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking back, so we're coming we're coming to an end. We're going to take some questions. Everybody has questions, but so looking back, what would you tell your younger selves, right? That Gigi that was running around the staging and at the fest at Pinebrook and all that stuff. So what would you tell your younger selves about marriage, ministry, and what's coming ahead?
Yeah, you know,
you didn't see it at that time, but what would you tell yourself now?
If my present Victor would go back 17 years to have that talk, the first thing that I would tell Victor back then, it would be, you know what? It will all work out. It's going to be okay, right? We are going to learn how to compromise, right? You will learn how to, you know, submit to one another. Ministry will be fun. It will be exciting. We will learn how to recognize each other's strengths. And God is in control of the relationship. Trust the Lord, serve him, right? Stay faithful to him, and God will supply every need in your marriage. He will keep you together. He will safeguard you. And at the end, it will all work out. Marriage is fun. Marriage is great. It's a blessing from the Lord. And this is the woman that you were praying for, right? I have a story to tell, right? Every morning going to work, I remember praying for my wife. Lord, I want to be married. Lord, show me where my wife is. If you could just show her to me, right? That was for a whole year. And one day my wife was introduced to me, right? And I would go back and tell my younger self, this is the woman that God had for you. So enjoy it. This is it. It's my blessing to you.
Yeah, and I would say, Gigi, stop. Just stop. Just understand rest. Understand how healthy rest is. Understand that you need to plan rest with one another. We need to refuel. You know, you need to allow for God's peace to really encompass who you are. So 17 years, and I would learn to rest in my marriage, not try too hard. I would try too hard to please him, to impress him, to love him. Just be me. It's okay to be me because he just loves me, and that's great, you know? And it's okay to be myself and find rest. And I think rest is important for me.
Yeah. I love that that last part that you said. It's okay to be me.
Yep.
You know? Again, going back to the pressures of calling, pressures of ministry, pressures of title, right? You were on a platform for several years, and there was just this expectation, because you were DYD and you were leading the youth, and you had thousands of young people coming to these events, and I can understand that sense of Gigi, you need to stop.
Gigi,
you gotta stop.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for reading that. But as I do, so season 2, you're gonna come back because I want people who want to start a church planners, because you guys came into Bayonne, and I remember those very first weeks. You guys were on the corner in Bayonne.
Years. Yeah.
And then you set up outside, and you just went there and started doing what you did, and now you are where you are, right? And just maybe help some people who are, nobody wants to start from scratch anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody just wants the big church with the big bucks, and I want the office with the leather seats and the mega library and rugs and air conditioning and all the wonderful things that come. But what happens when God tells you, I need you to start from zero?
Mm-hmm.
I need you to start where it's just you and your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to start here, and I need you to start now. Yeah. And I want you to see what I'm going to do. And so for some people that's a big one, because again, we're used to we would just want everything handed to us. But I would love to bring you back in season 2.
We would love that.
To talk about, Journey Church. And from the beginnings and to where it is now. And I know I kept flashing this up, but I want to let you know that she is an author of the wonderful book called Discipleship Transformed: Engaging the Head, the Heart, and Hands for Disciple Making. Tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, sure. So this is a spinoff of This is a spinoff of my dissertation. This is one chapter of my dissertation, and this book really talks about how discipleship is a buzzword, but discipleship really, the Lord calls us not to be discipleship or to do discipleship. The Lord calls us to be disciple makers. And so that starts with the head, knowing who God is, having God in your heart. And I believe that if your head and your heart are right with God, the natural result will be your hands. And so discipleship is about your mind, your heart, so that your hands can perform for God's glory.
Love it, love it, love it. So where can I get the book?
Amazon. Just Google Giselle Llerena or Discipleship Transform. It's in English and in Spanish, so it's available for my Spanish folks. And book number 2 is already on its way. And then I promise you, I'm going to work on your book 3, okay?
let me write a blurb at the beginning.
You got it. You're gonna endorse the book. How's that?
There we go. I would love to do that. The power of no when it doesn't align.
That's it. I gotta take that, brother.
Yeah. So again, for those of you who are in ministry, if you're looking to do something different if you're looking to do something different at your church, pastors, if you're on, or department heads, if you're listening, or anyone that's functioning in leadership, if you want to do something different next year with regards to discipleship, go ahead and pick up this book. It is in English and in Spanish. You know what you could do? You can buy both a set for you and buy a set for your pastor and gift this to your pastor this Christmas. Say, here, pastor, I was on a podcast, and so just talked about when the head and the heart are right, the hands naturally just do what God wants them to do. So that would be a really good book. And even if they don't implement anything, it's just good for them to have it in their library, because I promise the Holy Spirit will prompt them to pick that book up. And Victor, tú no te quedas atrás. And we're going to be a little bit more bilingual season 2. Vamos a hablar un poquito de español en la época número 2, right? So Victor, tell us a little bit about your practice, and is it available? Is it not available?
Yes,
to people, how can they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So you could definitely call the office. I do telehealth and in-person counseling sessions. I would love to, serve in that capacity. So if you have a need for counseling, for individual counseling or marriage counseling or family counseling, you can call the office. I don't know if I give you the number or.
Yeah, give me the number. Yeah.
So it's 201-243-6109.
243, hold on, 6109.
And you call up there and just, tell them that you saw me here in this podcast. I take various private insurance coverage, but if it's something that is out of reach or if you don't have insurance, I am willing to to see people at a discounted rate, and we could discuss that.
Great. There's the information, 201-243-6109, Pastor Victor Llerena. You can call, again, if you are in need of counseling, therapy.
And I am licensed in New Jersey State and New York State. So, if you reside in any of these states, I could provide that service.
Excellent. So there's the number, screenshot it, write it down. That we're offering those resources to you. They will be back in season 2 to talk about their church planting from 0 to where they are now. So if you are thinking about doing church planting, you feel God is calling you into pastorship, ask God, where do you want me to, am I starting from 0, or are you putting me starting at the top? But I would love to hear that journey regarding what's going on. What's the second book? Can you say the title yet or no?
Yeah, it's called Mastering the Second. It's the art of refraining, reflecting before reacting, head, heart, and hand in a different way. So many times we are so impulsive in making decisions, in doing things. And I bring a biblical perspective on how throughout the Bible, there are often times when leaders in the Bible, they refrain, they reflect before they react it. And I highlight several passages in the scripture.
Awesome. So listen, Gigi, she's an incredible speaker. I've heard her preach. I've heard her give conferences. So again, if you have the number on the screen, through that number, I guess you can contact Victor if you need to contact Giselle as well. So if you are looking for someone in 2026 to give either a marriage conference or a leadership conference, if you want her to come and speak to your leaders about the book or any of that type of resource that your church might need, you can reach out to me, or you can call the number that is on the screen, and I'm sure they'll be willing to get out to you. I don't know if there's any questions. I'm going to check a quick look on Facebook. If there's, let's see, Vanessa Rios is on.
Hey!
Said hi. Everybody's like, awesome, love it, speak on it. Really good stuff. So I'm going to, because there's the delay, so I'm going to wait to see if anybody has a question on Facebook or on the YouTube. You can go ahead and post it. If you have any questions for them about marriage and ministry, that you may be needing some guidance with or some direction with, go ahead and post it now, and I will share that question with them. And see if it comes up on any of the comments. But if not, excited as we wait for the question for that. I'm just going to come out here and talk about it. So listen, we've come to the closing of our season finale here. As we come to the end of Welcome to the Table. To close, I want to thank you for being part of this journey. Thank you for listening, for sharing these conversations, and for allowing the space to become a place of honesty, growth, and grace. And this season has reminded us about ministry. We've talked about family. We've talked about calling and how it all flows and has to be rooted in healthy relationships and surrendered hearts. So whether we talked about leadership, marriage, mental health, which we did, purpose and identity, the heart of our conversation has always been the same. God meets us right where we are, and he invites us to grow right there. So as we prepare for our next season, I want to give you a glimpse of what's happening next season. We're opening the conversation with life as a single person, and how do we do ministry as single people. So I'm going to bring up some music a little bit here. So let's see if it comes on. How do we do ministry as single people, right? So next season, we have a whole episode called Single, Saved, and Searching. And we'll be talking about singleness with honesty and with hope, not as a problem that needs to be fixed, but as a season of stewardship. We'll address faith, waiting, identity, desires, loneliness, purpose, and boundaries, and what it really means to trust God with your heart in a culture that pushes love and has tried to redefine what is commitment. So whether you're single by choice, by circumstance, or by season, whether you are content, confused, hopeful, or still healing, there will be a seat for you at the table. So take this time that we're off as we prepare for season 2 to rest, to reflect, and most importantly, let's go ahead and a reset. And when we return, come ready for real conversations, biblical truth, and grace-filled dialogue. Thank you for joining us here at the table. Amen. Let me check. Any questions? Are they doing any marriage weekend retreats in 2026?
If you want one, we'll do it.
I'll set you guys up at my church.
Let's do it. We're there. We're there.
And you know what? And it's funny because the person who asked that question is from my church.
There you go. So bring us on.
There you go, Joel Reyes. Thank you. Listen, because of you, yes, we're going to set up something, and I'm going to talk to them right after we get off because I need to lock them in on a date so that we can get this ready for next year. View looks forward to sitting at the table with you guys in 2026. Xiomara Flores, thank you for those view parties. Thank you. Let me go back up to all of these wonderful people who sat there. Kathy and Michael, Tim and Natalie, Friday and Crystal, Michael and Leah, Jackie and Mike, Edgar and Hannah, Wilson and Xiomara, Josh and Stephanie. Pastor Medina, thank you for being on. Vanessa Rios, people from my church were on, and people from other places were also commenting. So thank you for being on with us. We appreciate you. We wish you a very special Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay safe out there. And we love you. And so thank you. Thank you for joining. God bless you guys.